So this is episode 52, I believe we
Yes.
established.
Right. Yeah,
Great.
we had a bit of a delay last week due to stuff happening, but we're back. And it's the first one for. Is it no, it's not the first one for the year.
No,
I'm really getting confused here.
so according to my records, yes, we had one in January. Yes, I was asked by a gentleman involved with the Save India Family Foundation to do an interview, and they were back to back. And you suggested that maybe we should delay this episode, and it worked out to be really well because for various reasons, it took a little while to get everything going. And yes, so it was perfect that we delayed this episode, so
Yeah.
I could just do the other interview. I don't have to
Yeah, sure.
rush.
Are we able to see the interview at any time or?
I think it may be online actually, but if not, it will be soon. Yeah, I'll dig it up. I'll dig it up.
Okay,
It was
sounds good.
myself. Yep. So that was actually myself and Anil. Another gentleman organised it. And initially, I think it was just going to be me, and then Anil Kumar was also available. And yeah, we were both able to go on the episode, which was great.
Okay, that's good. All right, what do we got to talk about today?
Okay, so I've got a couple of items. The first one is reproductive leave, and this is unusually crafty from the feminists, actually, because they're usually not this smart. So what they've done is, what they're proposing is that Australian workers receive something called reproductive leave, which would be available to both men and women. So all Australian workers would have this. I believe it's up to 12 days a year, in which a person, I think, would receive, as I understand it, would receive paid leave in order to go and pursue various, either if it could be something like IVF, or it could be if this person has some sort of reproductive problem that they can use these days to receive treatment. But here's the thing. Obviously, women's reproductive systems tend to suffer from a wider variety of problems than men's reproductive systems. And of course, it includes menstruation as well. So in practice, women will be using this a lot and men won't be using it much at all. Or probably, in most men probably won't use it at all in any given year. Perhaps if a man's going off to do a sperm count check or something like that, maybe he may use a day or two. But yes, but I think it's particularly crafty. They're not usually this crafty. So you can pass it through. It's completely gender neutral. Women will use, many days, up to 12 days potentially. Men will use very little of it. So it's
Interesting.
not law yet.
Yeah.
It's not law yet,
Mhm.
but it's something that's been proposed.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm actually wondering if the fact that men can menstruate too is something that they'll take advantage of.
Well,
The men, I
indeed,
mean,
exactly. Quite right.
yeah,
Yes.
hmm yeah.
Yes.
In the advent of Trump, is the whole world kind of backstepping on that one? Uh,
Well, you'll notice that I didn't mention that. I did think about that, but I didn't decide not to mention it when I was talking about it.
mm,
Yes. So certainly, those of us who don't menstruate will be less likely to use it. Yeah, I actually do think this brings up a good point that I do
mm,
think there is very much. I mean, I'd say since 2023 actually is when things really started to change. There's a lot of pushback
mm,
against woke,
mm,
and it's much more evident since the US election. And of course, yeah, President Trump has passed some laws actually in relation to that, I believe.
mm.
But yeah, it's I think they're really on the back foot. But I do think this probably will go through, I suspect, because it is, as I said, completely gender neutral. It just happens to be something which women will be far more likely to use than men.
Yeah, yeah. Hence the crafty aspect of this. So,
Exactly, that's right.
right.
So
Okay.
yeah, so they got a brainwave on this one, I think. Yes.
hmm
So that's all I had to say on that. It hasn't been passed. I don't. There's, as far as I know, there's no even plan to get into the Parliament yet. So it could be some time before we see this. But I did want to mention it. Now the next item I have is the romance novel that I accidentally read. And
All
I was
right,
going
we
to explain.
we kind of
Uh,
teased this before, right? If you're on X, he's saying that he's accidentally read a romance novel. So, well, I guess,
acc-
yeah,
this happened
let's
many
hear
many
it.
years ago.
Okay.
This happened many, many years ago. There's no particular reason why I'm revealing this now. I just happened to be thinking of it recently and thought, well, why
Okay.
not? We'll talk about it on the goalpost.
Mm,
So this was back before mobile devices were particularly common. They might have just been starting around about this time. 3G I think, it was just before the launch of 3G, something like that. This was in
Right.
Canada, by the way. And I
Hmm.
was in a bookshop, and I was going to work in the city of Toronto, and I lived in the suburbs, and so I had needed things to read on the train. And I found a secondhand bookshop in Toronto, and I was looking around, and I picked up a few books, and I found this book that I really thought was really quite interesting. It was actually about a medieval court case. And it was one of the few cases, apparently, where the entire records for the court case had survived. I thought, and the author had written a novel around around the court case.
Hmm.
And I thought, wow, yeah, that's really interesting. That's a bit of a history buff. That's right up my alley. I love this idea of the genuine medieval court case and the stories written about it. So I start reading the book, and I get about halfway through, and
Hmm.
I'm thinking it's a bit of a strange book, though. Really, there's a lot of feeling, relationship stuff going on in this book. I get about halfway through, and I'm on the train. I suddenly just look up and go, "This is a romance novel," and I managed to
Okay.
get nearly halfway through the book before I realized. So, since I was halfway through the book and it really was about a genuine medieval court case, I decided to keep reading it. Interestingly enough, about a week later, I was actually sitting reading it on the train, and this gentleman was sitting across from me, and he said, "Excuse me, sir, I hope you don't mind me mentioning this." He said, "But I'm a little surprised to see a man reading a romance novel." And I explained to him about what I just explained here, that
Hmm.
what had happened, and how I'd realized this. And what was really interesting is only a few days before, I'd actually a friend of mine had actually been visiting, and I picked up the book, and I held it up to him, and I said, "What sort of book is this?" And he looked at it and said, "A romance novel." So apparently, I'm the only person in the world who couldn't pick up from the cover that this was a romance novel. Yes. So anyway,
Hmm.
so I decided to keep reading it, and yes, it
Hmm.
was a bit too much of the feels for me personally. But anyway, I managed to wade my way through, and anyway, the court case was actually about it was actually a divorce, which that makes sense, right? So the court case was a divorce, and there was some adultery, and the question was, it was the court case is about whether the wife could get a divorce, because at the time divorce was only legal if the ecclesiastical court authorized it, and there were very limited circumstances in which it could be allowed. These people happened to be nobles. They were rich enough that the wife was actually able to bring the matter before the ecclesiastical court. And yep, she did get her divorce, actually. And of course, in the story, there's the hero, and the hero's in love with the wife, and of course, she gets a divorce, and they get married, and they live happily ever after. But this was, of course, the first time I'd really had any sort of exposure to a romance novel, and so I was a bit shocked to discover that there was porn in it. There were
Okay.
sex scenes, right?
Hmm.
Now I happen to know now that that's very common, and most romance novels have explicit sex scenes in them. Yes, but at the time I was quite shocked about this in the early 2000s. So anyway. So yeah, that's my story about how I accidentally read a romance novel, and yeah, the
So,
core story wasn't bad, but as I said, too many feels. Anyway,
so remind me, when was this written?
probably 80s or 90s. I think it was probably about 20 years old by the time
Okay.
by the time I wrote it. I can check actually. It's actually called. I looked it up. It's actually called The Knight and the Rose, but I didn't think to check out when it was actually originally written. But yep, that is actually the title of the book that I read, and I found one. Oh, was it 1999? Okay, so which means it was actually only about 5 years old actually when I read it. Oh, there we go. So, uh, oh yeah, okay. I actually found the original cover that I didn't find earlier, so we might even post that in the as a link in for this video, so you can see the original cover. Yeah, because it's and let everybody judge for themselves whether they can figure out that that's a romance novel, because I didn't, at
All
least
right.
not in
So,
no, 2005.
okay. So I'm looking at it right now, on Google
Okay.
Images. You really
I'm
didn't
sitting.
know that, did Robert? Did you really not know this was a romance novel?
No. Looking at it now, I'm like,
Okay,
hmm.
well, without looking at the cover, you just told me tonight in a row. I was expecting some kind of more textbookish kind of case this of this year and this year or something. I don't know. I was expecting a little bit more straight, straight shot, but yeah.
So there it is. Anyway, so everyone can judge for themselves whether they would have picked this as a
Okay.
romance novel in the first instance. Maybe support my original assertion that I'm the only person in the world who didn't pick this up. I got halfway through the book before figuring it out.
The guy that runs AVFM8, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right. So there we have it. Yes, I think that would have been about
Hmm.
2005 that I was, so about 20 years ago that I read this book.
Hmm.
So yeah, I
Right,
was
yeah.
thinking, as I said, it was really, there was a lot about feelings in there. There really
Hmm.
was.
Right. Okay, and to top it off, the author is I Sold Martin. Is that right? Is that the
I
one?
believe so. Yes, exactly.
Okay,
Something along
as in
those.
Tristan and I Sold, that big romantic whatever the hell.
Oh, see, okay, that I didn't know, right?
Okay, I don't know. That's like foreshadowing right there.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
exactly. But at least there was a genuine medieval
Mhm.
court case in there, and I did make
Mhm.
it all
All
the way
right.
to the end and find out what happened.
Okay. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and apologies for the spoilers earlier, in case anyone's planning to read it.
Yeah. 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 We're gonna have like a book of the month club right here, and
Exactly.
it's gonna be Night of the Roads night.
So anyway, so there's my story about how I accidentally read a romance novel. But I'm kind of glad I did now, because it's now I can say I've genuinely read a romance novel. And as I said,
Mhm.
it was eye-opening because I was surprised at the amount of the explicit sex scenes that were in there, which I really wasn't expecting at the time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, was it all couched in euphemisms, or is it really a straight shot?
And it was a straight shot on the sex
Really?
scenes.
Okay.
Exactly.
Uh,
Yes. Exactly.
all
Yes.
right.
And yeah, it also involved busting open a chastity belt at one point.
Okay. Yeah. Who was wearing it?
She was. She was.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
So there we are.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think that's all I have tonight
Okay. Yep.
this morning for you.
All right. And you know, all things considered, that book might be tad more interesting or something I'm willing to look into than what I'm about to talk about. Is so I'm not going to, you know me, I don't watch new Star Trek. I'm not going to watch this new thing, but good old Section 31 that my wife loves to tease me about by mentioning the mere existence of it and torturing me. All in good fun, folks. I promise. But yeah, I mean, this is Section 31. So I think it behooves us to talk about what Section 31 is in the Star Trek context. So, did you want to say anything on that, or should you have me take the whole?
No, I'm happy to comment a little bit. So, Section 31 is an organization that was originally introduced in Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Then they expanded on it in Star Trek Enterprise, and then I believe New Trek, as is usually the case, takes it and turns it up to 9,000 and just completely overdoes it. But
Mhm.
the idea is that the Federation is a very noble organization and respects the rule of law and so forth. But of course, sometimes you need to get things done. So they have an organization that is so secret, it's completely off the books, and even most of the rest of the Federation doesn't know about it. And they do the things that the Federation can't ask them to do. And apparently, the name comes from the section of the Federation Charter, because there are 30 sections in the Charter, and there's a secret 31st section that authorizes the organization. So, but of course, in the early series in which we saw this, Deep Space Nine, the early episodes, there was really a question about whether Section 31 even existed, or whether it was some sort of a delusion of one particular guy, and it was really kept quite. There was a lot of mystique around it.
Hmm.
But of course, the later series expanded out and established that it really did exist and so forth.
Right.
And now, of course, New Trek is bringing forward a TV show series called Section 31. That
Now, before I comment more on that one, um, if I'm correct, they're not even going to go through with the TV show, and they're going to keep it like a sort of a one-off movie or set of movies or something like that. Someone could correct me
so
if I'm not because I have a weaker stomach than I look, so I'm not even going to bother doing too much looking into this sort of thing because this is one of those last straw things. But more on Section 31, they don't have headquarters. These are all in like the minds of a few people in the Federation, right? But New Trek gave it headquarters. And
oh
yeah, right.
yeah,
So
of course they did.
yeah, right, exactly. And it's like a formalized sort of a thing,
Yeah.
like perhaps the Romulans Tal Shiar and the Obsidian Order, the Cardassians, and so forth. But you know, because
Yeah.
those latter two were not secret organizations. Section 31 is so secret, as you say, it's not people don't even realize or acknowledge it exists.
Yes, it was meant to
Um,
be next level, beyond the other spy organizations that exist in the
mhm,
Star Trek universe. Exactly.
exactly. And the big thing about the plot with Deep Space Nine there is that they were trying to deal with the changeling threat at the time of the Dominion War and such, which would cause Odo to die, but our good friends save Odo, and they were trying to recruit Julian Bashir, the genetically engineered doctor, and so that's how he's entangled with this whole thing. And I'm not too fond of the way Enterprise handled it myself, because I think this is something that should be more later in the timeline of the Federation, Starfleet, and so forth. Yeah, so I don't agree with the use of it there, and I also don't agree with the fact that Lieutenant Reed was associated with Section 31 this whole time. Spoilers. But New Trek, it's inexcusable. They overdid everything like they did the Mirror Universe. They've got the Mirror Universe Giorgio, who Captain, as like the big spy character in this one. And see, here's the thing about Section 31, this new thing. It's so bad that even people who defended New Trek are actually hating it because
Wow.
right, because the character development, the reliance on one-liners, the bad plot, everything about it's bad. Rachel Garrett is in it. The character Rachel Garrett. Do you know who she is?
No, I don't. The name
Captain
rings
of
a bell,
the
but I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, captain of the ill-fated Enterprise C from yesterday's Enterprise from Next
Oh,
Generation. That's
okay,
her.
thank you.
Yeah,
Right.
right, yeah. So they're just jam-packing all the implausible
Yeah,
stuff in here. And
yeah,
they got someone from Sharon that's from Let That Be Your Last Battlefield. The black on one side, white on the other side,
yep.
even though that's implausible to have. And this is more to damage credibility than any new Trek ever has so far. I think I don't know. This is a year of turning points. I think we're seeing a turning point in the Trek world as well as the political world here.
Yeah. Unfortunately, as we've said before, I think Trek is so damaged now,
Mhm.
unfortunately, that
Right.
I can't see myself going back to it at all, even if they tried to
You
cast
can't
aside a lot of this stuff.
you can't save it. You just can't save
No,
it.
no, it's too much now.
Right, right, sure. I mean, they tried. We said in previous episodes they tried to do damage control by saying that it's not that the whole Discovery uh plot is not even canon. It's like an alternate universe or something like that. Well, alternate universe is a very sneaky way of sort of canonizing it, in my opinion. But yeah, you just can't fix it because uh it's like bad software. Pick apart one thing and like you break it in other places. So yeah, what else can you say about this thing? Like, I can't wait not to watch this.
Yes, I was paying attention to it so little. I thought it was a TV series, and it's actually a series of
Yep.
movies or
I,
something.
I could be wrong, I mean, for all I know, maybe they're still going on with it. Because goodness knows if something is bad, they'll keep on going. But I don't know. I've heard that it's basically going to be like a some sort of movie-like kind of one-shot sort of a deal at this point because it's just so
Okay,
bad that they were just turning back on it.
extraordinary.
Hmm. Right, yeah. But that's all I've got. Anything else you can think of? This might be a short
Yeah,
episode.
it might be a short episode tonight, or today, I should say, for you, Bernard, but which is fine by me. I've had quite a bit going on, but no, I only had the two items, plus, of course, the Zoe McLellan, who I will mention at the end of the episode. So,
Okay, so
if
sounds good.
there's nothing
I'm good.
else, all right.
Nope.
As of February 2025, a warrant is outstanding for the arrest of Zoe McLellan in relation to charges of kidnapping, child stealing, and child custody deprivation. McLellan is a public figure who has appeared in numerous popular television shows, including Star Trek Voyager, JAG, NCIS, New Orleans, and Designated Survivor. Her face is familiar to millions. It is extraordinary that she has evaded detection for so long. McLellan was reportedly residing in an apartment in River Ridge, Louisiana in April 2021 and may still be residing in the area. McLellan grew up in the area of Port Orchard, Washington State, and may have returned to that area. Some sources believe that McLellan has left the United States and is residing in Canada or Costa Rica. Prior to disappearing, McLellan was known to use the alias Sarah Chandler. Anyone with any relevant information should contact the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, catch you in 2 weeks.
Talk to you then. Bye bye.
All right, see ya.